Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. Let's get started. Happy Friday to y'all. So the first thing I'm going to do is into the second half of the NBA season. I'm going to go over my updated NBA standings before getting some NFL news. So let's get started. So in the East, I have Brooklyn end up being the number one seed. I know Philly's it right now, but I'm going to have Brooklyn being the number one seed. I'm gonna have them, I'm not sure the record it's gonna be because the uneven amount of teams, but I think it'll be super close. Like it could go down to a game or two for that one seed. I feel like Brooklyn will get it, and then second seed will be Philadelphia. Third, I'm gonna go with Milwaukee. I like the way they've been playing recently going into the All Star break, and I think they continue that, especially with Drew Holiday being back. Four, there's a bunch of different. Now four and beyond, that's a bunch of different options. You could put a team in different places, and I would have bat an eye. But I would probably say Miami is fourth. Is going to end up being fourth because again, I like the way they were going into the All Star break, and then not only that, they have one of the easiest remaining schedules in the NBA for the second half season. I think they're top five, so that's going to bode well for them. And I feel like they get that fourth spot. And then fifth, I have Boston. Again, all close there. Um, I feel like they started turning things around right before the All Star break as well. And if Kemba, who played like I think either his last or second last game well before the All Star break, if he can continue on that type of run, and with that week of rest, it's going to help him, and then hopefully get Marcus Smart back as soon as possible. And then Boston, can be hovering around there, and that would be a very interesting first round series since that was the matchup at the Eastern Conference Finals last year in the bubble. Six, you got Toronto. Now it was a little bit of a dip off because they had COVID issues before the All Star, but now that should be taken care of, and I think Toronto is going to continue to make a push to try to be a top four seed or five seed, but I just don't think they have as much talent as Miami or Boston. That's why I have them as six. But again, I could see it going either way, and I could see them making a run. Seven, I got Indiana. They kind of tailed off towards All Star break as well. Their schedule also didn't help either, but I feel they'll be able to figure things out enough to make sure they get a playoff spot. But as a seven seed, they means they're gonna have to be in a playing game. But I feel like they can um, do well in the playing game. And then eighth seed, I got New York. They're fourth in the East right now, which is pretty impressive. I don't think it's gonna last because we know Tom Thibodeau teams by the end of the season they're gassed or tanked, stuff like that. They only have one All Star on this team, so it's just like the make of the June like it's been a nice story so far, but we know towards the end of the season their true colors are gonna reveal. But I feel like they could still make the playoffs. It all depends on what they do in the playing games of their AC. But I feel like because they're one of the top defensive teams in the country, that'll definitely keep them in games, and we'll see what happens. Nine, I got Charlotte. Again, I like them mainly because of LaMelo Ball's been doing. I feel like they can be a 500 level type of team, and contend with New York and Indiana for the playing games and sneak into the playoffs. I could definitely see that happening. And then 10, I got Washington. So going from one of the worst teams in the East throughout most of this time, but then they started to find a rhythm before All Star breaks. I feel like they can get that last spot for the playing game, and just they probably won't get in the playoffs based off their being a test team in the playing game scenario. But I feel like you never know; anything can happen with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, especially. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. 11, I got Atlanta. Again, I like Trae Young. I like some of their pieces, and again, like for where they are right now, I mean, I can see why in that aspect why the coach got fired. But it's just like Atlanta's definitely underachieved right now. I feel like they can definitely win some more games and stuff. You got veterans like Rachel Gallinari wanting to at least make the playing game at this point, since they can't really aim for more than that, but because they don't want to see their season in early. But I feel like Atlanta's just going to barely miss out on that 10th spot for the playing game. 12, you got Chicago. Again, I like what Zach LaVine's doing and all that. I like what Billy Donovan's doing in Chicago's first season. Even though they're not winning a lot of games, at least he's keeping them in games. It's not blowouts and they're competitive and stuff like that. But again, I just feel like Chicago's overpowered here and they're not going to make the playing game. And then the last three teams are just not going to do anything at all. So you got Orlando, Cleveland, Detroit. You can put them in any order you want. I have it in that order, but again, you can do any order you want. I just don't see any of them doing anything at this point. Their season's over. Now in the West, I'm still gonna have Utah be the number one seed when it's all said and done. And by a few games actually, because again they have the easiest schedule remaining for the second half, so that's going to bode them pretty well for them. And again, I like what they're doing so far. Now I know they kind of again for the last couple games got tailspin and sputtered towards the All Star break, but with the rest and stuff. And again, these guys I feel like they'll be back to normal, will be just fine. Second, this was kind of hard for me to pick who's going to be the second seed here because you can go Phoenix or the LA team here, but I'm going to go with the Lakers here because I feel like AD will come back at some point, and then when that happens, they can win enough games to get themselves, the second seed. Because at this point, being a one seed for them, I feel like this is kind of a lost deal with AD being now, but I feel like their best case scenario is to get the second seed so they can host a Phoenix or host a Clippers or host a Portland in the second round type of thing. And then third, I got Phoenix. Again, I like what I'm seeing for them. I feel like this can be a continued success. And we saw them get better in the second half of the season. Even though like CP3 with the Thunder last year, we saw them get better second half of the season. So I feel like that's going to be the same case scenario here where that's going to happen. Before we got LA Clippers, the one thing that concerns me here is, the clutch time with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, how the past few games, it showed they're clear and not being clutch at all. And if they can't figure that out soon, that's going to be a problem going down the line. But I mean, I feel like they can survive and still be a top 4 seed when it's all said and done in the loaded West. 5, I got Portland. By the way, so 1 through 4, but specifically 2 to 4, you can put in anywhere you want. I don't care, but that's my order there. And then 5, 6, you can swap it how you want. 5, I got Portland, just because on what Damian Lillard's been able to do so much, and the pieces around like Robert Covington's been a good piece. Carmelo Anthony shows up almost nice, and Derrick Jones Jr. has been a good lob threat for Damian. They got a bunch of other good pieces of stuff. Terry Stotts is a good head coach. I like what I'm seeing for them. And, of course, the big thing is that C.J. McCollum and Joseph Nurkic should both be coming back within the next few weeks. They should both. And when they're back, then that's going to be even a bigger deal for Portland to be relevant. And then 6, I got Denver, because, again, the Joker is awesome, MVP level candidate. The only problem with Denver, though, besides, not having as many bench key players did last year, obviously, was Jamal Murray has been inconsistent so far. So if he can pick it up and become bubble Jamal Murray and pick it up and be a solid player throughout the whole second half of the season, then Denver can get into that top 5-4 category. But if he continues to remain consistent, then Denver's going to remain inconsistent. So I have Denver to succeed. 7 seed, I have Dallas. I still feel like because they are horrible defensively, they're going to look inconsistent. Despite their talents on the team, but I feel like they can get to the 7th spot. Now, the 7th spot means they're going to be in the playing game scenario, but I feel like they'll dominate that and get in just fine. And then the 8th seed, I got San Antonio as of right now, just because Greg Popovich, he's not going to miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. He's going to figure out everything he can and try to get back in there. So I feel like they could be a 500 level team. And then 9, I got Golden State. Just like within one game of San Antonio, it's really close between the two of them. And Golden State could easily make a run in the playing games and then snap an 8 seed type of thing against San Antonio. But I feel like with Steph Curry, the Warriors are going to have a chance in general, despite not having a lot of pieces around them. And then 10 for that last playing spot. This was kind of hard for pick. Because, again, you can go Sacramento, you can go New Orleans, you can go Memphis. Any of those options are good. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the Pelicans here. I know the NBA won't want the Pelicans because you got Zion Williamson and you got other key good players around Zion, and I feel like they can potentially make some noise there. It would be interesting if Memphis can get a 10 spot being a playing game like they were last year in the Bowl. That was a nice playing game that they had against Portland. But I just have them barely missing out though, just because again they're too inconsistent. They're either really good and they beat good teams and they really win, or they just really suck. Whether it's good or bad teams, they just really suck and have an off night. So they're just too consistent for me. The Pelicans are as well too. But at least with the Pelicans, okay, at the very least we're gonna get that. So that's why I'm gonna put New Orleans at Memphis. And Sacramento, same thing as Memphis. There's there's some things you can rely on, honestly, but again, there's just too much inconsistency right there for me to put them in that 10th spot. And then again, Houston, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. You can reverse those order however you want. I don't care. I put Houston 13th, Oklahoma City 14th. You can do whatever, and then Minnesota will obviously be last in 15th. And then I'm not going to go over who would win the playoff scenario right now. I'll do that another time. But now to go to some NFL news. So there's been a lot of players that have been tagged or released or traded, mostly released and tagged. I only want to talk about a few of them real quick. I'm not going to go ahead and make a bunch of top 5 lists for all of them because there's so many people being cut right now, and at least it's just crazy. So it'd be too much to do all that, especially with how busy I am. So I'm just gonna go over the notable ones that's caught my eye so far over the next last minute of the podcast. So let's get started with my first one. I am so surprised that the Dolphins have now released Kyle Van Noy. Not only because of his talent, because there's a bunch of players with talent being released, but he was a key player for that defense under Brian Flores back in New England, and then when Flores went to Miami, he recruited Van Noy to go there. So so Brian Flores knows him best compared to any other coach in the NFL besides Belichick. Like that seems like that should be a fit right there in itself. And then also Van Noy was a captain last year, and when you're a captain, it means you're voted on by your teammates. So he was a solid anchor for that team and that in that defense to help become the top 5-10 defense in the NFL that they were. So I just don't get now. If you tell me Houston gets Deshaun Watson the trade here, and that moves, create cap space and left for Watson to come over, then all is forgiven. But if that does not happen, and 2 years you're starting, don't make that many changes, then this was a pathetic, dumb move by the Dolphins. And I was giving them credit because they made a bunch of good moves recently to kind of get themselves back into near playoff contention. But this move just doesn't make any sense. The Chiefs today released tackles Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. I feel like those are both big deals. I mean, Eric Fisher, #1 overall pick at one point. I mean, both of them got injured, so maybe that's why they got released. So the Chiefs are looking for more fresher and start all over on the O-line, especially since what they saw in the Super Bowl with their O-line getting smacked. They realize, okay, we need to get younger at that position and better, more depth there. So also they're just really expensive, but still, I feel like that's unfortunate for them, and a lot of teams should go after them, even though they're gonna have missed some of the season because of injury. But they're definitely people to go after. Another big one was the Packers not tagging Aaron Jones. So he's a free agent now. Of course, Packers are going to try to keep him and because they want him and all that. But it'll be interesting to see if Aaron Jones goes for the more money and goes for a team like the Jets or something like that, or a team like the Dolphins that have been rumored to try to get him. And the Dolphins are more contender, but that'll be kind of interesting to see what happens there. And then, the Saints released a few good players, like wide receiver Miles Sanders. If I'm the Packers, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, you make that phone call right now, try to get him. Punter Thomas Morstead has been there forever, part of that Super Bowl team. Quarterback Janoris Jenkins got released there, so just a bunch of, which doesn't surprise me because the Saints had released a bunch of players because there's so much over the salary cap, but still it's pretty big. And then they tagged Marcus Williams. The Bears tagged wide receiver Allen Robinson, which is huge. Because a lot of teams were hoping he would come over somewhere in free agency, but now that's not going to be the case. And it sucks for Allen Robinson because I feel like he would automatically leave Chicago if he had the choice, but that's what happens with the tag sometimes. And then, let's see. So also, Detroit is not going to tag Kenny Galladay, wide receiver there, so he's going to be released and be a free agent, which is a big deal. I know he was injured for most of this past season, but he's a really good underrated wide receiver. So if you're a team that has a lot of cap space, like a Jets or something, you need to grab him if you can. That'd be a very good whoever goes there. Chargers don't tag tight end Hunter Henry, so he's a free agent. I'll have Kyle Rudolph, so 2 very good tight ends right there are free agents. If you're the Patriots, you try to go after them if you can. Try to get some weapons there. And the Bucks tag Chris Godwin, which is I feel like it's the right move there. And then they bring back, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but they bring back a linebacker there that was an anchor for the Super Bowl, and I feel like they'll continue to try to make moves like that. Tom Brady's reconstruction contracts will be. Don't be surprised there's a big move coming there. Let's see who else. Saints released Seahawks released defensive Carlos Dunlap after acquiring him through trade with Cincinnati this past year, so that was a short-lived stint, but that's kind of interesting there. Washington obviously released Zach Smith, so he'll be free agent. Interesting to see where he goes there. Bills released wide receiver John Brown, which is surprising because he helped Josh Allen through his first 2 years until Stephon Diggs came over and took over. Seahawks don't tag running back Chris Carson, so he's a free agent as well. So Seahawks might be looking to start over there. And that's all I'm gonna go over right now. But again, just a bunch of stuff there. Looking forward to see what continues to happen in the future as free agency starts next week. Let's get it going. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast. Please subscribe to my channel and tell everyone about me. Thank you very much, and y'all have a wonderful day.